on the weak side, it works on, a day it's like 80 degrees, but when it's like today.
I have a window air conditioner for my office. Is that a capital item?
You don't have the windows for that.
It works on, day.
True.
I know.
Call the meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up on our agenda is Josh. People have pepper. You want to come on up?
Here. Hard copy of the proposal that was provided via email.
Yeah, we're good.
Regarding the evaluating fiber project, working on to interconnect our substation with distribution metering points. We're going to be moving into Stark County, where we'll be building 75 miles of fiber throughout the county. We have 6 delivery points throughout the county that we're going to be interconnecting. What we'd like to talk about is the road cut fee schedule. Right now, it's currently at $75 per 1,000 feet of overhead line placement. So essentially for us to place the fiber optic cable on existing KVR EMC poles in the county right away, we would experience that $75 charge for every 100 feet on our 75 miles. That factors to about $29,700 in current fees. We've worked with some other counties and been able to get a reduction to that. But ability here in Stark County. We are stewards of the right of way. We understand that our poles are installed there. We want to be respectful to the right of way. Cause no more damage than is absolutely necessary. We're not asking for any fee reduction for any of the road bores or underground work that we need to do that will be disruptive to the right of way. Just the overhead line placement. We'll be placing our cable on our poles. I've spelled all that out and provided maps to you as well. Do you have any questions on what we're working toward or what the objective of the project is? Any more information on the asks that we have for you tonight?
Not really. I mean, it's all.
I met with Josh along with Councilman Pearman last week before, and kind of got a specific overview on this. Then, yeah, this is in line with our discussion. That
No, I think it's something we should do, so. I agree with it.
What kind of reduction are we looking at altogether?
So we've reduced the permit schedule if we were to go with 80%, which we've experienced in other counties from $29,700 to about $5,900.
Make a motion?
Is there an MOU or something on this? I mean, some kind of written agreement on this or of any kind? I'm just curious because the term about not including the I mean, you're just approving this essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Just wanted to be clear what's happening in the record.
And in other counties, what we've done is really with the permitting office, just work with them directly, we file it as we would normally, and then they apply the discount when we actually have the permit issued through the county highway department.
Okay, great.
If you'd like for us to follow that, that's the next question that I have is how would you like that administered from the KVR EMC to help track that? Do you want us to file those permits as normal or file them with the 80% discount applied? Do you want that applied on our end or on your end? We can go either way.
I would file them with the 5,900,
Mhm.
not like
Right.
with the full price.
Right.
I'd file them with a little note saying that it was approved at this particular meeting.
Right.
You're still paying full price for the boring and stuff though?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So that's why like on the permit on road cut permit, it has several boxes.
Yeah,
to fill out.
yeah.
So let's put that in that box. Then for the overhead line placement, we'll illustrate it for that and make a reference on all permits back to this meeting.
Yeah.
So this document will be the official record of what I'm sorry, but I want to make clear what the record says. So this will be the official document that will be referenced when we need to show authority for it later, right? Okay, great. I'm fine with that.
And I will make the motion to apply an 80% discount to the permit fees associated with the overhead lines to be installed as documented.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Easy peasy.
The Benco,
Up to the hot seat, Kathy.
Pardon?
Come up to the hot seat.
Yeah, that's what I was scared of. Bernadette said I'd have to come up here. Oh, well, been in the hot seat before.
It's always Bernadette's fault.
Yeah, thank you. I talked to Brian. We have an issue. We're having problems with the VHF communicating to our department. And I was told that there was a couple other areas that Bass Lake and Sanpere had issues. Well, last Monday, we had issues. It was down. J&K was brought out. I don't know who they contacted to find out who, but anyhow, they came out about 9:30. The guy he came. I don't know what he did, but he left and he supposedly went to Bass Lake, and my fireman was down there at the fire department till almost midnight waiting for him to come back. He never notified him. He had to call dispatch, my understanding, to get to find out that the guy said it was fixed. And it's been a week and it's still not, over a week, and it's still not fixed. If the VHF is not communicating to the siren and is not paging them out. And last year we had 2 deaths. Over half the department wasn't paged on it through the VHF. They've got the calls on their phones. Every year, it seems like we're having problems, and J&K is not. They're J&K rigging it. Now, I don't know what you folks would do, but I feel that the taxpayers, the people of Stark County, deserves better. I mean, to me, it should be #1 issue. I mean, if we can't get the page to our volunteers to, in event of a death. And I mean, yeah, they have gone to homes that has had COVID. They've had to help. They go to accidents, fires. And if they're not getting the communication, it's something the county needs to look into.
I got Dave and we got Matt Noonan here also that are on that committee.
So we have a communications committee, and I'm the chairman of it. I wanted Matt to be the chairman, but under duress, I'm the chairman, and Jana is the vice chair of it. But Matt's also a collateral participant. And Kenny Post is the fire representative for the county because he's, by proxy, he's the county fire president of the county fire organization. So we don't always report back to the commissioners because they figure, you guys know that we're getting the job done, but the communications committee has established a protocol for problems within the fire departments. And it's agreed between the sheriff, between Janet, between dispatch, between the communications committee, and between the fire chiefs. And the protocol is that if there's a radio problem, first thing they need to identify is it a local problem? In other words, something to deal with their vendor, which in a lot of cases is Matt Noonan, or companies like Bartronics. I don't know if Washington still uses Bartronics, but to rule that out first, to make sure it's not their equipment. And then the chain of command is either the chief, or if it's, a lot of times if it's Matt, it's okay then too, but that person communicates with Jana, who kind of creates this triangle between J&K Communications and gets the solution found. Jana shared, and I only heard about this today. So I mean, if we're not getting the communications throughout the whole thing, it's hard for us to really know how to deal with it as well. But Jana shared with me an email today with J&K that they went to Washington, resolved the problem, and tested the problem. Now, on the backside of it, I talked to Kenny, we talked to Rick Clark, who's the chief, and said that, they're they're not really sure what J&K did. They're not sure, 100% sure if it's resolved. And so one thing I told the communications committee today, I spoke with Jana, I spoke with Matt, I spoke with Kenny Fost, that I haven't gotten a return call from Rick yet. But when I can get with Rick, I'll personally go to the fire station and observe whether their paging equipment is receiving the tone and opening the tone, and report that back to Jana and the communications committee. Yeah, and we can go from there as far as how we deal with that next. But the other thing is, and this is just a recommendation, just in talking to everybody today, you may want to have J&K just to come in for an update. We are paying them $50,000 a year for a contract. I think maybe it might be time to reconsider maybe canceling that and possibly looking into another alternative. I mean, the one thing that I'll say, and not getting down on J&K too hard, is that from the very beginning of this project, we've had problems with this radio. It's never worked right. We had this sound that sounds like a machine gun. Now that I'm, more in depth involved with EMA, I listen to the radio still a lot, and I hear this thing happening on VHF that never happened before. We had Motorola equipment that was at several different sites. We paid several $1,000s for a tower at Washington Township to improve the radio system. When J&K came along, they said, let's eliminate that one. And they switched us over to a completely different brand of equipment, which I will say, they said that the Motorola equipment was out of date. That was only a few years old that we had, but it's still being used today by other areas. So
Including our own EMS still uses the
yeah, so they sold us a bad bill of goods all the way around. Just wanted to make money on radios, but at the very minimum, I think they owe you at your next meeting, and this is just our opinion from the communications committee, come in and update you on things, where things are at. But I think also we need to exercise our option to cancel that contract, because I don't believe, and Matt can correct me if I'm wrong, Matt's also the IPSC state representative, so he knows a million times more about radios than I do. But I don't feel like they're earning $50,000 a year at this point in service. They come here, and now I will say that Jana is working well with them, so in the sheriff's, working well with them. But in an overall perspective, I don't know if they're actually earning that additional money.
Well, for like they come on service once a year, and it seems like they're here for the day and then they're gone. I know on the state level, I'm at my sites every month. I'm not expecting them to do it, but at least a quarterly check, would be. But we're paying them quite a bit of money. Let's utilize it instead of. And then it seems like every time they come out and do something, they throw a bill at us. We're wondering where this bill's
Here
coming
we're on
from.
contract and they still bill us.
Yeah.
So
So would the communications committee be open to exploring alternative options to present to us?
yeah, I think we could bring
The
it up.
problem with that, we have two options,
Yeah.
J&K and ERS.
Yeah,
There's not many vendors left anymore. Minor ended up, Chicago Communications swallowed them up. Now they're all part of Chicago Communications. They still work out of the same area. I mean, I just don't know if they'll actually, they got bigger, better contracts to worry about than all the time. I guess.
We had a lot of problems with ERS 20 years ago, so we dropped them and just that relationship faded away. But most of the other counties use ERS. We may just want to have them give you a proposal, do a site survey. I think
Site survey, and actually, even to the extent of quoting out to what it's going to cost per site again. The problem is they can't work on the equipment that we have now. They're a Motorola dealer. We have Kenwood equipment. So we have to be really. There's no other real vendor to come up here and work on our equipment. J&K is the only.
So just getting rid of them really doesn't sound like much of an option.
Not totally. I think first they owe you an explanation, and I like I said, I'm not sure if we want to keep on doing this $50,000 contract. We're not getting anything out.
I mean, because as you guys know, when the contract came up, we were having a lot of issues out in Judson. And it was, we're constantly trying to resolve it, ended up being internet
It's,
problem.
yeah, it seems to be the same, just in the last, when I was getting acclimated to it 3 years ago, seems like it's the same issues over and over again from back then and longer. And
Sorry, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to weigh in on this topic. It seems to me that years ago, there was a much taller tower than we have now. Is that true?
Negative.
We have a taller one now.
We have a taller, yeah.
At Washington Township?
Washington Township has a taller one than we used to have here at our jail is where our main tower is at.
I mean, because VHF is line of sight communications, and if your tower is not tall enough, you're not gonna be able to make the system function.
I would say though, yeah, the one at the jail is definitely tall enough. The one at Washington Township,
I'm not sure, Dave.
The antenna, the way it stands at Washington Township does have line of sight to the tower, believe it or not, actually. It's more of a electronic problem than.
And we work on a voted system. It's not a regular repeater system, just to clarify that. It's totally different than what you think of a normal ham radio VHF repeater. We work on a voted system. So
we did both.
we utilize microwave in between the jail and each side to make the communication back to dispatch, and then the communication out to dispatch. That goes to the top.
But this goes back a number of years. I know you guys have been having trouble with the VH system. Have we converted all of our radios to narrowband FM?
Yes, that was an FCC requirement by year, and when they did it, they came in and every radio was touched. They don't even sell non-narrowband radios to the public safety industry.
Who's responsible for keeping the FCC licenses for all of our?
J&K. They've been doing it for us since we've had them. They keep up to date on our FCC licenses.
Now, for talk, we still have 800 megahertz, and most of the departments like to use that. The main thing they're complaining about is getting that initial page is what they're struggling with. Now, the other thing too was that I was told that they were expecting to be able to open pagers inside a metal building at the firehouse. That doesn't always happen either. So, I mean, that varies, but it sounds like it needs investigating. So I can't really tell you until I go out there, until I hear from Rick. I will report back immediately though, before your next meeting on what I hear from him.
Do you want me to have J&K at your next meeting?
Yeah.
Just like a update of,
yeah, what they've been doing.
I know I've updated everything on my end. They've
Well,
got new pagers, new radios.
But how about the siren? You said you had a problem with the siren too?
It won't go off.
They've had a problem with the siren since day one, it seems like.
Did they?
Rick, I think
The
you guys-
new one,
Yeah.
I don't feel it's loud enough. That's my issue.
Well, not about that. I'm worried about actually getting it to tone out, to actually trigger the relay for the siren. Has it been working? Because I tried calling.
I know it
everybody on
hasn't
the
been
tornado
working at
day.
all this past week.
I don't even know if it went off during the tornado.
And- Well, see,
Check that
that's one of my biggest concerns is tornado season. I'm paranoid.
I thought I heard it go off, because I'm only,
Sometimes
5
I can
miles from
hear
there.
it and sometimes I can't.
Yeah.
And that inside the house, but outside, if it goes off, I can hear it, no problem.
And that's a rotating siren, just be
Yeah.
cautious of that. So you're not gonna hear it for a second, then say,
Yeah.
why you're gonna hear it for a second.
I mean, VHF signals may not penetrate, certain buildings,
Right.
But the ham community, we go out and we do this as an exercise monthly. And we send a ham to a hidden location and we have radio direction finding equipment that we try to track people down. There are some places where you get lots of reflections off of, like a water tower or something like that. So, I've been kind of monitoring this situation ever since I've been in the county, which is about six years now. And I know you've had problems with the VHF system. From what I know is, the other thing too is that all the systems are digital now. Or both, that's the way they're heading. And you've got to have those things programmed properly so they do not work. So it might well be a programming problem. It seems to me that, rather than relying on J&K to keep these licenses, we got to have somebody in the county that's responsible for looking at the licenses, okay? So we know,
I keep an eye on the licensing. I mean, the J&K is the one file, so.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way, but I'm always kind of keeping an eye on it.
But I mean, do you have a copy of all the FCC
At
licenses?
home, yeah, I have every single one of them. And the county should have them filed.
yeah, they should be on file over at dispatch. All right, thanks for coming out, making us aware. and-
Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Kate.
I'll let you know, Kathy, too.
All right, I appreciate that.
Now we got the public discussion on the ARPA funds.
If he got it.
Shall we start with her?
I want that
Your request?
upgraded something.
So going to several meetings, at first I was kind of against hiring Baker Tilly for anything, but and this isn't something that has to be done now, because, you know, we have till 2024 to spend the funds. And our revenue losses, our revenue losses may be, we may not experience anything now, but like next year when our lit rates go down, or if they will go down, we might experience something there. But I would feel more comfortable if Baker Tilly completes the revenue loss for us, rather than relying on me to do it, because you do have to have good documentation for that, and especially for the audit and stuff. And it's only like $3,000, and you can use ARPA money toward that too. So I would just like that as a part of your plan in your, you know, in the ordinance, in the plan, possibly consulting services.
Makes sense. Also, in a context like that, having, I hate to say it, but you have their name on there.
Yes.
I think it carries a lot of weight. It
Yeah.
really does.
Yeah.
And you know, if they're gonna, they go, oh, well, Baker Tilly, I mean, that's
Yeah.
just the way the world works.
Yeah.
So it does kind of pay off in that respect. You don't have to learn it all too, so.
So that's it. Just as far as your plan, I'd like to add in consulting services as a possibility. And if anybody does speak on record for ARPA, can you please state your name?
Is this for the 4.4
Yeah.
million? Okay, Debbie Waffle. I moved up here because if I'm gonna spend my evening here, I'd kind of like to hear what's going on. But I don't, I like to be in the back row otherwise. I just wanted to ask if there's a possibility of improving broadband service, internet service in the community. Not just because of entertainment or pleasure for the use of the internet. You know, we do our payroll online and all the withholdings, and there are days you just have to walk away and come back later and try to get it done. And I'm sure many businesses face the same thing. I operate my business from home, and it's just been horrendous the last 6 weeks trying to use the internet. And even with a hotspot, I understand, I found out your CenturyLink has to be operational before your Verizon hotspot will even operate. So if there's any possibility, I don't know how far $4.4 million will go toward that, but something I would ask that you consider.
I think that's one of our big things.
That is,
To look after.
that was one of the things that was spelled out specifically.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in finding ways to expand that.
Right.
Well, I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it every chance I get to, you know, fiber to the home. It's what rural electrification was back in the 30s around here. So,
I know it's probably not cost effective for the big companies when there's so low a population, but that's all we hear about nationally is rural internet, rural internet. A lot of people work from home, you all know that now. Secondly, facelifting the community possibly. I live in San Pierre. I know people from many states and places that travel 421, and I meet somebody and they say, where do you live? And I'm a little bit ashamed to say I live in San Pierre now. It has become a junkyard right along 421. And I don't know if you guys have any enforcement rights for codes, but you know, Indiana code says junkyards aren't supposed to be within so many feet of a highway unless they're screened or fenced.
Right.
Buildings are becoming dilapidated, falling down. Maybe if we offer incentives with some of this money for owners of that property to tear them down, match a grant with them, paint them. You know, if we want to improve our socioeconomic conditions of our county, we need to be more attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you move in beside a neighbor with junk all over their yard, you're going to feel like you can have your junk all over your junk, and we just keep growing the same as we are. So there's that old Combs gas station on Highway 10 that's turned into a junkyard going into North Judson. So if there's something we can look
I
into.
think there was something with that already.
They're under review with the planning commission, still,
Yeah.
the planning commission's on them, get fixed up.
How about anything in San Pierre that?
I don't remember anything in San
I don't
I've
think
brought it
there
up
is
to the
anything.
planning commission more than once,
Mm.
but
They
there's just,
tore that one building down, didn't they?
this is
Fixed
old
another one.
equipment,
Mhm.
rusty, old equipment. Now there's piles of logs right along Highway 420. What the old buildings, the planning commission or BZA board, whatever, has approached this man. I've been at the meetings and he keeps saying, I'm trying to sell it for $300,000, you know. There's no investment potential there and it just gets worse and worse. There's the old blue restaurant that's worse and worse. And I don't know if, I hear a lot more and more, thousands and thousands of dollars going toward food. And I would say if you consider that, you do some research. From my experience, food pantry is calling me, asking me to take food and take it to our employees who don't need it. They will fill up the back of my SUV with food. And I take it and say, okay, guys, want any of this? I'm like, no, my wife got it at the bank. No, we got it at the church. They're delivering it to the fire departments even because there's so much food out there that's not being used. So I just ask you to do some research. I'm not sure it's the same at Knox, but I started taking it and cooking for elderly people, just rice and beans. And they tell me people don't want the fresh celery and carrots and stuff. So when they come to the food pantry. And I do know from experience of running a nonprofit for 6 years that people are very picky about the food they get and take. And if they have to come learn how to cook with it, they don't need it.
I don't think the ARPA money, they had any plans putting it toward food, but we did receive a $150,000 grant through Okra for food services, but that we applied for that several months ago. So maybe there was more of a need back then, I don't know, but we were approved for that. So we're gonna have to come up with some kind of program for that.
Yeah. And I think there are people that could really use it and don't want to ask too. That's part of the problem. So, and if more people want to take it and cook for the elderly, they love a visit and they love a fresh pot of soup. So that's an idea. I guess that's all I could come up with. But when I saw who wouldn't want to help spend $4.4 million, but for good purposes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I usually do.
Yes, sir.
My name is Steve Dodge. I am here on behalf of the Gateway Committee, which was responsible for moving the depot to over here, and the caboose and the Washington Tower, as well as the bridge, the Rochester Bridge in Wythoven Park. It's been over 30 years since those structures have been maintained, and they need to be painted, power washed, and need to be fixed. And that's not a glamorous thing. It's something that we're looking for more money for. Also with the Rochester Bridge, that's the only Rochester Bridge left. I think it's in the state. I'm not sure about that. But it's on the National Historical Register. And I would hate to see that deteriorate and eventually be torn down. So I'd like you to consider, again, the facelift part of it. We need to keep these structures, these historical structures, in good shape. And it helps attract businesses and attract people. Another thing is signage. It would help a lot if there were, like the Stark County Forest. I don't know where that is. Nobody knows where it is. It would help if there was the signage on Highway 35 and along that points to it so people can find it. Also, the Hoosier Valley River Museum. If you don't know where it is, it's hard to find it. Signage for the Historical Society and the depot too, and the bridge would be helpful. I submitted an application to the Convention Bureau when they had those to put a sign at the historical bridge, just explaining where it came from, how old it is, the company that made it, and why it's on the historical register. More signs like that, I think, would be nice, not only in the park, but other places, the points of interest signs throughout the county, that there is something for that. So I'm just suggesting that, I don't know what APRA, what would it funds and what it doesn't. But I'd like to bring this to your attention for your consideration. Thank you.
Hey, Steve, the signage that you're talking about with the Stark County Forest, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
That actually can most likely get done now through the park board because the park board's over the Stark County Forest.
Actually, if I could interrupt on
Yeah.
that, there's actually funding for that and that's already being done. It seemed to have been delayed during COVID. I'm not sure why they haven't got them installed yet, but that's actually been funded
Oh, really?
and should have been done by now, frankly.
So you guys already are doing signs for.
Yeah, that was
Oh, okay.
funded. That was funded a while ago, actually. And
Okay.
then I don't know what held it up exactly. But you remind me of it. I'll check
Okay.
in on it. There is actually money for that.
Well, good.
I'm surprised they haven't got them deployed yet, but
Right.
so I need to nag them about it, I guess.
Marty, has the park board developed a park map, a county park map? That is a good idea that I think Steve's kind of indirectly bringing that up, but that would be.
Well, I don't know that they have the one that's user friendly enough, to be honest with you. There are some maps, like there's a map from the county forest, and I think it's on the website. And in fact, I'm pretty sure it's on the website. I'm not sure how easy it is to
It's
find.
sort of a master map though, of the whole county with all the parks.
Well, I don't know about that.
Tourism.
I don't think so.
Good idea.
That'd be a good idea, right? All kinds of public access points for the rivers and stuff too, and But I got a question. Does anybody know if this, does the county have jurisdiction over projects in the city of Knox for ARPA?
Anyway, yeah.
Anywhere in the county? Okay.
Was the city getting funds of its own through ARPA? Or was it just coming to the county?
Not sure.
No, the city gets our funds too.
What he said.
Okay.
Have you approached the city about this too, Steve?
Yeah,
And what did they say?
they are willing to, what they want me to do is find federal grant money,
Federal.
and then they will, or federal or state, transportation, they have grants. And they're willing to, if I can find something, they're willing to help support that.
I think the park board is a good resource for you. There's some pretty smart people on there that can.
But my big worry is that you look at the depot now, and Jim showed in a lot of work for Patriots. It was a really nice building back in the 90s. And now it still looks nice, but if you look at it closely, you can see when the paint is peeling. Someone's been at the back door, an animal perhaps, destroying that. The caboose has been pretty much destroyed on the inside. There's some homeless people in there for a while, and vandalism. The steps are gone.
Well, the chamber has kind of had authority over the building sort of
Well,
recently, and then the city. The county really hasn't had a dog in the fight of the maintenance of it. It would be nice if they would have created a fund, some kind of revolving fund that would have funds in it for maintenance. I mean, it does need to have maintenance on it. It's a very nice, all of it, both pieces are very nice, historical pieces.
I hate to see them. That's what I'm trying to do now through the Gateway Committee, is to develop ways of maintaining those buildings.
Definitely.
Does anyone else have anything for us on this?
I want a window air conditioner for my office.
The windows won't open.
Sorry, Charlie. I told you I would behave tonight, and it's just not really going well.
Okay, well, I guess we can move on. Is there a motion to approve the payroll claims in the amount of $252,120.84?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
There a motion to approve the vendor claims in the amount of $292,435.02.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes from Monday, June 21st, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Have to approve the letter of support for Stark County Court Services. Did you guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to approve that?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I had to reappoint the River Board members. It was Bill Crace and Dan Gomes.
Motion to reappoint those two to the River Board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And Marty, you must have the opioid.
Yeah, I have, there's another update that's getting a little more active. You may have heard a little bit about this. This is the portion relating to Purdue Pharma, and just for everybody, just trying out, it has nothing to do whatsoever with Purdue University, just happens to be the same name. They have no affiliation. And they were the entity that actually made OxyContin and marketed it. And they're in the bankruptcy court under Title 11, which is a reorganization. And we're named parties affiliated with the national opioid litigation. As such, that they negotiated for what is called a master ballot position, meaning that essentially the litigants in the opioid interstate litigation collectively have a veto on this. In other words, they have to. The majority of them have to support it in order for this proposed settlement to go through. The summary of the settlement with Purdue Pharma only. This is important to remember, actually, even though they were the manufacturer, they're not the biggest defendant. They're maybe the fourth largest defendant or something like that. Unlike some of the others, many of the others are very large, like drug store companies, essentially, that are among the biggest companies in America. And even though these numbers are big, it won't have much effect on them. But in the case of Purdue Pharma, they're actually going to go bankrupt, and they're going to do a reorganization if this is approved. And there's two elements of it. One is they'll initially pay the following. They'll pay $700 to $750 million into a personal injury trust, $365 million to a third-party payers trust, $250 million into a hospitals trust, and $60 million into an NAS monitoring trust. And then the entire company will be conveyed to a new corporation, which will be essentially controlled by the governmental entities that are litigants, and then they're to manage the profits for the remainder of the company's life to continue to fund these operations. And so it's in anticipated to be probably at least $2 billion that would go into these funds. These are going to be divvied up nationwide. And, you know, I'm not real thrilled by where our position is on this particular one. I hope it won't recur, but the attorneys advised to take it. Looks like 2.2% of the fund will be earmarked roughly for Indiana, and it'll be divided up among Indiana over a period of years. You can do, you see what you see under the issue is actually whether you're in favor of this settlement with the bankruptcy court or not. And I have to tell you, I looked into some of the comments that occurred in court, and I wasn't anywhere near them, just basing it on what I read in the paper, essentially. But it really looks like the judge is pretty much telling them that they need to do this settlement. So it's either you approve it or you don't. I mean, and I think the advice is based on the idea that if it's not approved, that it probably wouldn't be beneficial to the plaintiffs, that the court is not that sympathetic with the plaintiffs, I guess, that it's going to give them a whole lot better deal. So that's their reading of it. And you could do one of three things. You could vote to approve, which is you'd be like one of 6,000 votes, essentially, I think, that are, there's like 6,000 litigants. You'd be one vote that would be in favor. You can abstain from voting on it, or you can vote against it. You pretty much have to do it now. The deadline's the 9th. So, but all you have to do, and since this is a master ballot, all you have to do is vote on the record about what you want to do, and then I will convey that information to our attorneys, and they will. You don't have to fill anything out or anything. You have, you probably do have a lot of questions, and some of which would be hard to answer. But you know, it does look like their advice to do it, to favor it, is the right advice, and to be practical about it, it seems unlikely it's going to be voted down anyway. So if you decided you didn't like it, that probably wouldn't affect the result, but maybe you would, you know.
But this would have no interaction with the opt-out that we did.
No, it's totally separate than that. This one, you know, and I think the reason for that, it's interesting, you know, maybe this is one, because this was so far along, it was too late for the Attorney General's action to really affect it, right? But that's not all of it. It's in the bankruptcy court.
Okay.
And when you're in the bankruptcy court, if you've ever, you know, had the misfortune of being a creditor in the bankruptcy court, you know that the judge is just going to do what the judge thinks is right. And, you know, so that changes the bargaining position a lot. And that's why I made the distinction between Purdue Pharma, which is actually going through a Chapter 11 reorganization bankruptcy, meaning the company will not cease to function. But what will happen is it will no longer be run by the family that operated it, and who actually pled guilty to criminal charges and stuff related to this, right? So, and so there's a hope that will generate quite a bit more revenue in the future for, certainly they have patents for drugs that are legitimate drugs. It's just the question of how they were used, not so much that they're not legitimate drugs, right? Mm-hmm. So I hope that sort of answers your question. Yeah.
Is there a motion on this?
Well, since you're both looking at me, I'll make the motion that we approve the proposed action.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. I'll keep you advised on this, and it'll get more interesting. This one, I think we're kind of, you know, in the peanut gallery, to be really blunt about it on that one. But you know, we won't necessarily.
We could be one of many or one of few.
Yeah. You know, the thing that's frustrating about this a little bit, you always look at it, and the larger communities are, you know, get a lot more autonomy than the smaller ones. But you know, the impact of this was worse in the smaller communities. So it kind of, that always seems a little unfair to me. I see why they do it, partly because the smaller communities are less equipped to actually manage this kind of a thing, but you know, still.
Mark, do you have anything else?
No, I think we've got everything.
Brian?
I don't have anything else.
Marty?
Yeah.
Rachel?
Well, yes, I do, Charlie. Thank you for asking. What do you want to do with the old coroner vehicle?
Is it?
So the highway department sent out that report, which I think that only needs nothing major. Yeah, and it was pretty good.
Can it pull the EMA trailer?
I think it should have a hitch on it.
Yes, but is it free
Should
to
be.
actually haul that
should
much
be.
weight?
Yeah, that's the rain though, so should be fine.
What's the weight of the trailer?
I don't know.
And
I don't know if it's a single axle, double axle.
It might be a double axle. I don't know. I know it was just in horrible, horrible shape for 4 years. And it might not even be viable. I don't know how much time our new EMA director spent going over it, going through it, see how viable it is as a mobile command center.
So you're thinking EMA?
I'm thinking EMA.
Because we have, that EMA car out there. I'd like to take something off the insurance. We don't need both of them sitting around.
Well, this would be ideal for, in an event where that's probably full drive too, so.
So do I have your permission to have them fix what needs to be fixed and pay for that out of the EMA budget? And then take that car out to the highway department, take it off the insurance and park it until we have an auction. And then after this gets fixed, put this up here?
Yeah, and then re-sticker it, put some EMA decals on it.
EMA decals. I think the EMA should have enough budget. There's
Yeah, I
money
need
in the
something
budget
on
for
it.
that.
So is there a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Does anyone else have anything for us? Motion to adjourn? All those in favor?
Aye.